I think we can start now. Again, thank you to all of you, those who attend this, the second information session, and who also attended the first one, and those who are new to this activity. We hope that if you have answers, sorry, questions, we can answer them today, and you leave this information session, the last information session for the Syria call for concept notes, fully aware about the requirement and what is needed for you to submit your application. Just for the all of us to know that this meeting is recorded, and as we did in the first information session, after the end of the call, we will put it on our website, Nabni, for all of you and others who could not attend to go through and see if there is any information that can help them in their submission. So basically, as you remember, those who attended the first information session was focusing on the call for concept notes, requirement, the eligibility criteria. We tried to explain how to apply, and also the reason behind the criteria, and all the design of the call for concept note. We also went through the application template. My colleagues explained in details the also the different sections within the template, and then after that, as we agreed in the meeting, we allowed for questions and answers. We took all the questions and answered them during the call. Also, we later answered the questions in writing and put them on our Nabni website. I think during that session, we received around or maybe more than 60 questions. They were different in terms of the focus. Some were asking about the geographical locations. Most of the questions were around the eligibility criteria and how to understand the eligibility for the NGOs operating inside Syria, operating from outside Syria, but with focus on Syria, and so on. So today we also hope we do the same. We answer your questions, and we can later put them on the Nabni website. So just before I hand over to other colleague to go again through the template of the call, how to fill it, and if we see there is some important issues we would like to highlight. Colleagues, please note that this is the last information session. After that, there will be no more interaction directly with potential applicants. The only way will be through the e-call for application system, in which you can use to submit your questions if you have any. You will have until the 4th of August to submit questions. After that, there will be a period of 1 week in which we cannot answer questions. Even if we receive questions, we will not be able to answer them and post them on our website. The deadline, again, as a reminder, will be the 10th of August at 4 p.m. Damascus time. After that, the system will shut and you will not be able to upload your application. I really encourage you all to submit your concept notes enough time before the deadline in case any technical issues, so we can work on it if you notify us. The other point, I mentioned it before in the first information session, and let me also try to highlight it briefly here. Please do not write to us directly. If you have any questions, we will not be able to answer you. We prefer to use the e-call for proposal system to upload your question. It has to be in English language. We receive the questions in Arabic, in other languages. Unfortunately, we are not able to respond to these questions. So this is a quick kind of reminders on a few things. And I think now I hand over to my colleague, Georgia. She's part of a team just like me working on the Syria for call for concept note. She will go through again with you the call for concept note template and how you fill it. And then we'll go through the questions. Sorry, we go through the lesson learned and then again how to upload your application, and we open the floor for your questions. Thank you. Giorgio, over to you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome again to the info session. So my plan is now not to necessarily share new information, but to go through the concept note or the concept note template once again, maybe with a little bit more detail. Since we presume that since the last information session, you will have maybe gone through the call and the eligibility criteria, and maybe you are now at the stages of starting to design the project or in the midst of designing the project, and therefore looking at the concept note template. So I will take some time to go through it again, and of course welcoming any questions further from this explanation. Excuse me. As a reminder, we are not going to accept any concept notes which are not in the format that we provide in the eCall for Proposal system. So this is the only format that we will be accepting. The first few sections just highlight the instructions for the concept note, for fulfilling the concept note template. We don't need any further details or any annexes attached to this concept note. So please note that we actually will disregard any annexes or other documentation that you will be submitting, and we will only be evaluating this concept note as a document. Please try to keep the word limit that we have set in the document itself. Each section has a different word limit, so do have a look at that. We have tried to be fairly sort of generous with that, even though this is, again, only a concept note. And so, as you know by now, there will be different stages to the grant making process for NEBNI, which means that this project idea will be further refined and there will be time to provide more details and work on the full project design. You will see, and I will go through the concept note as 4 sections, and they all need to be filled. Again, as my colleague mentioned, and as maybe you know by now, we will only accept concept notes in English. We remind you here, as we do in the call for concept notes itself, there's quite a lot of background documentation which is available on our website. I think just to maximize your chances to being eligible and successful in getting your concept note evaluated positively, do have a look and examine the documents that have to do with the Building for Peace approach on our website, as well as our theory of change, which was described in the last information session, and for which there's also a video that explains it in more detail. The video is in Arabic on our website. So do have a look at that. We will be essentially basing sort of our evaluation on these elements, because as you know, the call for concept notes for Syria for us does not have specific thematic areas of focus. Only our guiding principles are the theory of change for NEBNI and the Building for Peace approach. Okay. The background information that you are requested to provide here is a section that is not scored. We ask you to provide some basic information here, as well as on the e-call for proposal system. The questions there will have more to do with organizational information and detail from an administrative point of view. Here, we're asking for the consortium names, I mean the names of the organizations that are members of the consortium, and if you have a name for the consortium itself. And we require you to select from a drop-down menu the geographic lot that you will be applying for, as well as the specific governorate that you are applying for. Then there is an extra section here, which actually allows organizations that have to describe a little bit more in detail the different evolving legal and operational changes they have gone through since December 2024, particularly around their legal status and registration status, as well as operational modalities. So you're free to provide more details here. Again, we will not be scoring these, but the information that you provide both here and in the questionnaires in the eCall for Proposal system will be subject to then a due diligence process should you be successful and reach the shortlisting stage. So again, this is not for scoring purposes, but for you to provide further information, as we recognize that there's very complex changes happening since a few months now. Okay, then we get into the full sort of template and the different sections that are there to be scored and for you to describe both your project idea as well as the profile of the consortium. There's 4 sections. The first is about the project idea, so essentially you describing the project that you have designed. The second section is around the profile of the consortium. The third is on the budget. And the fourth is for you to provide past project experiences, and so basically project references. And I'll go through those one by one now. Let me just make it a little bit bigger on the screen, but presumably you also all have downloaded this. The first section is around the context. There's 3 sub-questions. Please note that the word limit here, which is, I'm highlighting it now, is 750 words. This applies to the entire section. So it's not by sub-question. This is the whole section should be around 750 words. So we're asking you to describe the specific locations that you want to work in and why those were selected. Asking to describe the local conflict, challenges, and tensions that may exist in the target locations that you have selected and how those have an impact on communities. And then the third sub-question is around access and safety and security risks, and how you evaluate those, as well as how you would plan to mitigate them. Now, in this, we don't expect you to have developed a fully fledged security assessment. This will come later, but just to have an understanding of your assessment of the situation and the safety and security risks and mitigation measures for those locations. Section 1.2 is around the project idea and the relevance of the project idea. The relevance is regarding the context. So how your project idea is relevant to the context you just described in section 1.1. So here you have a chance to describe your overall project objective. And then secondly, what aspects of the challenges you identified in section 1.1 will your idea address? Then you are required to describe the project idea and some main activities. Here, this is also a chance to state what kind of service delivery or infrastructure activities you think are needed to foster social cohesion. Again, this is to illustrate how you would apply the Building for Peace approach in your idea. The last sub-question is around your target groups, or maybe you want to call them project participants or beneficiaries, just to have an understanding of who your target will be. 1.3 is about your project idea rationale. So in other words, understanding the logic behind how you think that the project will generate change. So how do you expect your idea to address the challenges you identified and lead to the overall project objective? Again, how will infrastructure or service delivery activities or components contribute to social cohesion? And lastly, we ask a question around how your proposed activities complement each other across the three pathways of change of the Nabni theory of change. As a reminder, there's three pathways of change that have to do with social cohesion, service delivery and infrastructure, and then thirdly, local governance. And there is here a requirement for you to illustrate how those are integrated and not sort of in silos. 1.4 is a section about your methodology or your approach. So the first question is around the evidence and assessments or existing work that you have or consultations that you have done that have informed your assessment of the situation as well as your project idea. Just to highlight here, there is no requirement for you to carry out a full needs assessment at this stage, but you may as well, as of course, but this is only to know how you came up with your idea and what information do you have that has informed it. Again, how will your project sort of create social cohesion across the different divides? So understanding your methodology behind generating or strengthening social cohesion. And then a last question here around taking into consideration the very specific different needs that may exist in different segments of the population, including women, girls, men, boys, and different minorities. The second section, as I mentioned, is about the profile of the consortium. And you are required to respond to the questions, unless otherwise stated, based on the collective experience of the consortium. So whether it is 2 organizations or 3 organizations that form your consortium, this is the requirement. The first set of questions is around the different organizational characteristics. So here, actually, we require separate answers for each organization, for the lead and the sub-applicant or sub-applicants. Here we're asking to know your organization's mandate and how it is aligned with Nabni's principles, which can be found again on our website in the various documents that I cited before, and how your project idea also aligns to your mandate. So to understand a little bit how your organizational vision aligns with the project that you are proposing. This is the same question for your sub-applicant, for the lead applicant and sub-applicants. Section 2.2, then this is asking to describe your experience, again, as a consortium in the proposed project location. So knowing how long the different members of the consortium have been working in the location and what has been your operational modality and implementation modality here. So essentially, what kinds of activities and how were you carrying those out, and whether you have offices in the locations that you have proposed. The second sub-question is around the sectors of operation in the proposed location. So what kinds of activities you have conducted in what sectors. And then here also, the third sub-question here is around understanding your relationships with local stakeholders, including local authorities, coordination, collaboration as relevant, to understand, yes, essentially the connect that your consortium has in the locations that you have selected. Section 2.3, is about the experience with the project approach. In other words, understanding what experience your consortium has conducting the types of activities that you are proposing. The first question here is around experiences in conducting local peace and conflict analyses. This is particularly important because, as you may know, the co-design phase, which is the first steps of the implementation of the Nabni grant, entails a local peace and conflict analysis to build upon and to design the full project. The second sub-question is around your experience, and very importantly here, not only your experience, but lessons that you have learned through implementing projects on peace building, social cohesion, local governance, infrastructure rehabilitation, service delivery, livelihoods. So anything that has a relation to the Nabni theory of change and the project that you have, that you are proposing. So again, let me stress here, we're interested in your experience, but we also have a section in section 4 that allows you to provide project references for the consortium members. So here, please take advantage of this section to also highlight some of the lessons learned that you have from your implementation in the past and your experience in the past, and how you are building on those. Section 2.4 asks to describe your accountability to local communities mechanisms for the consortium members, how you have applied those in previous projects, and how you have adopted conflict-sensitive approaches in the past, and your experience in this. Section 2.5 is all about consortium management. So there's a couple of sub-questions here. The first one is around essentially the formation and the makeup of the consortium members, of the consortium. So what are the complementarities and relative advantages of the consortium members, to understand how you value and how you evaluate the balance of profiles of your consortium. The second question is around what you envisage and what you plan for the main roles and responsibilities of consortium members within your project idea, and who do you think will lead on different activities, and how this was decided. The third question here is around the governance structure and decision making. So just providing a few details of how you see that at the moment. The fourth is around whether you have experience in managing and working in consortium. And the last question here is only an optional question. So if this is not applicable to your consortium, please write not applicable in the answer. The question is, if one of the consortium members is a type of network, so an alliance, a forum, an NGO network, to describe the working implementation modality and the specific role they have in the consortium. As a reminder, as you will know, networks of NGOs are not eligible as a lead applicant, but they are eligible as sub-applicants. Let me jump to the third section, which is around the project budget. The project budget that we require at this stage is not detailed. Please don't feel that you need to provide a lot of details beyond what the template requires. This will be revisited quite a bit in the co-design phase. This is really for us, and this is why the section is called indicative project budget. It's for us to have an understanding of the balance between the different activities and pathways, and this is reflected in the template, which I will get to in a second. One thing that I want to highlight here is this sentence that is underlined. NUMDI will take a look at the proportion that your proposed budget represents compared to the annual turnover of the lead applicant, so the grant holder, for the last 3 years. So we will be looking at an average of your annual turnover for the lead applicant over the last 3 years, which is information you are required to provide as part of the application process. And we will evaluate, excuse me, and we will be evaluating kind of the proportion that the NUMDI grant would represent in your annual turnover. And there's questions related to this a little bit below. So essentially, we want to make sure that it is not too big of a percentage. And if it is, then what measures will you be adopting in order to sort of adapt your financial management mechanisms and make sure that you have sufficient absorption capacity? The budget instructions here, and you will see it below. We ask you to use the below template. The different direct costs, so activity costs, will have to be stated by change pathways. So in other words, the pathway 1, pathway 2, and 3 of the theory of change. Again, they are only an indication. Salary costs are only personnel charged directly to the project, and direct costs also include any operating expenses such as office rent, etc. The indirect costs, which are in the budget templates, essentially are overheads or overheads or indirect costs, and they're capped at 7% of the budget. you should be designing a budget in euros and for a 24-month project. There were some questions before around whether this budget should include the co-design phase. The answer is yes. Please plan for a 24-month project. And in the next steps, should you be successful and receive a NABNI grant, we will be negotiating and discussing a co-design budget from the overall budget. Again, you're not required to provide any additional details for the budget at this stage. This is the template. Unfortunately, here it's broken between 2 pages, but different pathways require you to provide the activity costs as a lump sum. So any activity direct costs that are related to these pathways are here. Then any salary costs. So the salary costs have a separate line, local operating expenses, and all of this is going to be part of direct project costs, and then your overheads capped at 7% of the budget of the direct costs. The section 3.2 talks about financial management capacities. So this is what I mentioned before. If you see that the proposed yearly budget, so if you are proposing a 24-month budget, divide that by 2 to get a yearly budget. If that represents 50% or more of your average yearly turnover, and here I'm talking again about the consortium lead applicant only for the past 3 years, then describe here how you plan to adapt your financial systems to make sure that you're able to manage the project of the scale that you propose, and to mention any specific measures that you would take here. The second question is actually the opposite. So if your proposed yearly budget, so again, the 24-month budget divided by 2 represents 20% or less of the average yearly turnover of the consortium lead applicant for the past 3 years. So again, average yearly turnover. Then here we're asking you to explain what is the added value of a NABNI grant for you and your organization and your portfolio, as well as the potential for strengthening the institutional capacities of your organization as well as consortium partners. The assumption here is that if, let's say, a 1.5 million euro budget that you are proposing, and so 750,000 euros per year is 20% or less of your average yearly turnover, it means your organization is fairly large. And therefore, we want to understand, okay, what's the added value and what's the potential for strengthening your capacities, and what do you see as those gaps and visions? So these are only questions if they're applicable to your case. If they are not, please feel free to write not applicable. Now I'm reaching to the 4th section, which is the last thing I will talk about, which is the project references. It's fairly straightforward. We're asking for a minimum of 6 project references and a maximum of 12 relevant projects that consortium members have implemented. And here we're asking for implementation maximum in the last 5 years. So anything beyond the last 5 years it is not for you to add here. There's a little bit of leeway, maybe it's 6 years, but depending on the project length. But we want to see sort of fairly recent experiences. And here, minimum 4 projects that have been implemented by the lead applicant, and at least 2 projects by consortium sub-applicant. And here, so you are required to provide the name of the project, the locations, and some other details on start date, etc. The donor, the budget of that project in euros, the budget that your organization was managing. And then the last section is around your sort of the relevant activities of this project that you have implemented in the past to the proposed project. So please do not provide a full description of the project, but really highlight here what was relevant in your past experiences to your current proposed project. yes, I think that's it for this section. And again, as with the due diligence process I mentioned before, please note that anything that you provide as information here may be verified, and so sort of project references, I mean projects that you have implemented in the past, and project references. That reaches the end of the concept note templates. So I will hand over back to you, Zaid. And of course, if any questions come up later, happy to answer them.
Thanks. I think Georgia also tried during the explanation for the template to answer some of the questions that we received during the past days and even during the previous info session. So she was highlighting or emphasizing on things during the explanation, which is again questions that came to us. And I highly encourage you all colleagues that to go through the Q&A document, again available on our NABNI website, because so far we have answered around 83, 84 questions in that document, and I think it will help you a lot if you have still not fully understood the process and how to navigate the template, the call, the requirement, and so on. Let me hand over to Lynn. She will also explain again, as we did last meeting, the lesson learned and things that we maybe want you to emphasize on or try to avoid during you developing the application. Over to you, Lynn. Do you want me to share my screen or you can do it from your side?
Thanks, Zaid. It's up to you. I have the slide open, so.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Okay, can you see the screen?
Yes.
Great. Hello, everyone. This is Lean, the Knowledge Management Advisor for NABNI. Building on what Zaid and Georgia have explained, I just want to briefly go through some of the lessons and from the previous experiences we had with other countries. So building on from Iraq and Yemen, we have some tips for this round, and we hope that you're able to integrate them and reflect on them while you're preparing your concept notes. The first one is related to the collaborative work as a consortia. So working using a one-team approach. Obviously, we recognize that you might not have worked with the same organizations that you are applying with before, or perhaps you are not entirely ready you don't know who you will partner with necessarily. What's important is that you try to find each other as quick as possible and try to really work on every step of this process together. I know it's easy to split things across the organizations. Each member could draft a section and then you just put it together. But we really encourage that there's a very deep and thoughtful discussion between the lead and the sub-organizations, and that you go through the different details and go through the thinking process together and review all of the concept notes together. This is from the perspective of working together instead of working in a competitive way or against each other. Try to find organizations that will complement your work and that you could build on their strength and try to highlight the strength of both organizations. We really encourage you to go to the website and look at the theory of change, look at the different manuals and documents that we have. We have videos that explain the theory of change in full details with a lot of examples. We have that in both English and Arabic. We have a YouTube channel that you could also refer to, and it has the Arabic video for the theory of change. You can also watch the recording from the last session where the theory of change is explained in English as well, which is on Facebook and on YouTube. So really reflect on these on this content that you have and give it the time it deserves, and discuss it afterwards, because it might change the whole approach of your work. This project is not like a traditional proposal that you apply to or that you're used to applying to. We really encourage that you try things differently. This is a chance for you to be creative and maybe suggest new modalities, new approaches under your mandate, under your lines of expertise, especially because of the unconventional sectors. So as you will see from the City of Change, we do not specify which activities you need to implement. It's completely up to you, and you have enough time to determine what is appropriate for the communities and for the locations where you're intervening. It's very important as well that you be very specific and focused. I know that there's sometimes tendency to just remain general or remain broad because you are not sure yet, especially when our call is quite broad. But it's very important from the discussions that you had with your sub-organizations that you know exactly what you want to do and you explain it and describe it very well. So you don't have to maybe specify specific activities, but at least specify the problem statement very well, specify how you think that a specific intervention is going to complement that and address it. Now, what's super important is that for this specific project, we understand that the need is very vast and big and cross-cutting and multi-sectorial in Syria at the moment. However, what you can do in order for you to kind of narrow down the different options of intervention is always use the communal mindset. So when you want to suggest an intervention in your concept note, or even think of an intervention in your preparation workshop with your sub organizations, try to think of an approach or a solution or an intervention that supports or addresses the community. So individual services are not exactly appropriate for this call. We understand that there's a huge need for individual shelter, for cash, perhaps for individual households. However, here we're trying to address, we're trying to build on rehabilitating centers that serve a wide community in an inclusive manner. We're trying to start from conflict, peace and conflict lines in order for you to draw your full intervention. So think of the community as a whole. Then obviously the basic writing and formatting skills. So try to be concise, try to stick to the word limits, try to be coherent. And this also speaks to the first point when you're drafting different pieces, make sure that the concept note is well complemented and it has this one spirit, and review it before submitting. And last but not least, is also very important that this project has a co-design phase. So after the selection process is finalized and the partners are selected, there will be a co-design phase that extends up to 6 months, where you have a lot of time to do all of the assessments that you need to identify your specific site and to understand more the conflict lines that are triggering conflicts in the area. of intervention. So we don't expect that you give us statistics or like do some secondary literature review for this, for the purpose of this concept note. We just want very initial findings that you have from your existing primary data, such as observations, update reports. Build on that, and then you will have enough time to specify that in the co-design phase. Again, as Zaid said, there will be times for questions and answers, and you can come back with any questions on this. Over to you, Zaid.
Thanks. The last part before we open the floor for questions, all is to, for the last time, we go through how to submit your application. I think this is now important since there are only 2 weeks maybe left for you to submit your application. So I hand over to Barak, who will navigate us through this process. Over to you, Barak.
Yes, second. So uh, when did you download the Tinder package? I think it was a zip folder. The call for concept note was a zip folder. In that zip folder, you have 2 subfolder, one called ECFB, which include 2 links, one for asking questions and the other one for upload. So once you added that link for upload, you would be opening this page. And this page basically is the data entry page, which you would be requested to add information. It will start simply with the core information. All questions should be answered in English, except when it's written, you can answer it in other language, similar to the first question. So I will fill it just very quickly. I would say in Arabic, Zaid, and then Zaid, and then I will be just adding dummy things. The email, you cannot add it except once you add at something, I don't know, gmail.com. The status, you can, it's a free text. The country you have to select. If you don't know, just write it. It would be easy. The data entry, you can put it 1/8, I don't know, 2001. Registration, it's a free text, so you can add a 1, 2, 3, 5, 4, and etc. So you need just to fill in the information. So I'll be just putting a dummy answer. This is a number, let's say 50,000, 50,000, 1,000. The number of employee, let's say 40. Security, let's say A, B, and C. And this is the question I received on, we received on the ECFB email, a technical error. So this is the number that you require to include for the consortium, which means you are the lead and you have a consortium, or what we refer to them as sub-grantees. And from my understanding, the maximum should be 2. So we would be doing the maximum number 2, but beyond that, please don't insert it. So this number is very critical. It will open a different page. Then you click next. Then you read the questions and you just answer them. So I'll be just be doing a dummy one. And the first answer for these questions is for the lead organization. So you can select yes or no, depends on your answer. And then click next. And then you'd be requested to insert the subgrantee name. So let's say A, and then another question would be required to answer. So I'm just taking a random answer. And then you have subgrantee 2. Then let's say B. Then the same. And once you click next, you would be provided with a summary of your answer. So this is the answer for the core information. And this is the lead questions. And this is the subgrantee 1 and 2. If, for example, you answer this question wrongly, you meant yes, you just can go back and correct it, and then next again. And then you will find the question is corrected. Now, after this stage, if you proceeded, then you just click next. And the system would ask you that if you proceeded after this stage, then you will not be able to amend your answers. Then you click yes, and then the system would ask you to upload a document. You can upload any document that you want. So I'd be just adding a dummy picture. And then you'd be requested to insert your organization name. Please ensure that the organization name that you inserted is the legal name that you would be downloading or you'd be uploading with. So let's say just say organization in Syria, and then the email address. Once you added the email address, you would be sending the OTP, and then you'd be receiving a password, which is one-time password. You insert it and then submit. Now, I will not be doing the submit because this is the real process. So we don't want to have a fake application for us. And that's it. After you submit, you'll be just receiving an email confirming your submission, which include also a PDF document presenting the summary of the answers. Is there any questions? Because I cannot see your questions, or everything is clear?
Just a question.
Sorry, yeah,
we can save and complete the inputs at a later stage, correct?
No, you cannot. You have to do it one time. The system does not have a temporarily saving function. You have to do the process one time. But for example, now, if I don't want to complete it, I will just be closing, and that's it. Like there will be no submission. The system will not capture it.
And you have to do the entries again, meaning?
Of course. Yeah, it's one-time entry process. The system does not allow to save and return again unless you're during the window.
Thank you so much. Now, colleagues, we can take questions the way we did last time. We have 3 questions, like we give time for direct questions. Also, later we'll go back to check the chat box. So please feel free to also leave your questions in the chat box. But I kindly, just for the sake of the time, go through the Q&A document, because a lot of questions are repetitive, and let's give maybe time and floor for new questions. If you go to the document, you will find a lot of your questions or answers are there. So I highly encourage you to check before you ask your question. The first 3 names will start with Anas, and then Muhammad Hattab, and Ala al-Nouri, or Ala. Anas, go ahead, please. And make it
Yes,
brief,
hello
kindly.
everyone. It's Inas Fliti. I'm the partnership manager at Hand Organization. I have a question regarding the information to be uploaded on the system. In the core information section for the registration info, should we hear that the registration info are for our current registration in Syria, or for the country where we will be documenting our past experience in?
Thank you. Muhammad Hattab.
Yes, hello everyone. This is Muhammad Hattab from Mizan from Human Rights Watch. Just I have a question. It's which document we have to upload in the last steps in core information. Thank you to everyone.
Ala al-Aruri.
Hello.
Yes, please.
We are a sub applicant, not the main applicant, and our organization is newly licensed in Damascus. However, we have implemented multiple projects previously under another in partnership with an NGO. Should we mention the previous work with that NGO, or is it sufficient to only refer to the main consortium and the other partner?
Thank you.
I have another question. So, do we only mention the previous experience only the same lot, like in our case, Damascus, or do we also mention experiences in other cities in Syria? Thank you.
Thanks. Georgia, do you want to take the first maybe
Sure.
questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the first and the last. I think they are almost similar.
Okay, so the first question was around whether in the core information session you should include your information about registration in Syria or from the country that you have past experience in. And the answer here is actually to your discretion. Essentially, you have to provide the registration information of the entity with which you will be holding the grant should you be successful. So the flexibility here is that you can decide to use your current registration in Syria and provide information on your past experience based on your, let's say, registration with the affiliated entity that may have been registered abroad. So this is up to you, depending on which entity will hold the grant. And think about the operational modalities. As I presented earlier, there is space for you to describe the different sort of complexities in the narrative of the template as well. And there's actually a few questions on this matter already in the Q&A document. So yeah, kindly refer to those as well. I think there was a question around which documents to upload for the core information. And here the answer is none. So you just provide the information on your core information, so registration number, etc., as my colleague Barak just showed. No documents have to be uploaded at this stage. If you reach the shortlisting, we will do due diligence, a due diligence process, and there we will be requiring the documentation. So you should have the documentation available. You don't have to send it at this stage. And the last question was around a sub-applicant, newly licensed in Damascus, worked with other NGOs and have past experience in maybe under a different registration. I'm not sure. You don't have to. We don't differentiate who you have worked with in the past. This is not important. The importance is your own organizational experience, whether it is, as I mentioned before, with your current registration status or maybe with a previous one. And this is what we'll be asking you to provide details on. When you talk about your previous experience, I think this was the second part of your question, in other locations that are not the locations for which you are applying. As I mentioned, if you go through the concept note template, there you are required to provide two types of information: your experience with the approach and the types of activities you are proposing, as well as in the location. So what is crucial is that in the consortium, there should be experience within that location. And then you can also cite experiences in other locations if the activities are relevant, if the activities are relevant to the proposed project. I'll stop here.
Thank you. The next round is Hannah, Becker, and Fadi. Hannah, please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I have a question. I have read the Q&A section. You have one of the answers regarding the track record and the registration inside Syria, where you encourage the main applicants to find a sub-applicant that is registered in the application or the assigned location, and they have an experience. So we have two questions. If the sub-applicant has a track record, but in a different, let's say, sectors, and if the sub-applicant has a record, but not in the same area. So this is what confusing us. If our sub-applicant is registered and has a track record in a different location, and if we have a sub-applicant who is registered and have a track record in the same location, but in a different sector. Thank you.
Becker.
Thank you so much. This is Becker from IYD, Partnership Manager. Actually, I have two main questions regarding the requirements for the sub-applicant. It is mentioned regarding the physical or the operations that the sub-applicant should be active in project locations as direct implementer for the past 3 years. So in this case, you will not consider the one or the sub-applicant active now, but has active operations from 2017 to 2018. You know very well the geographical location. Some of the sub-applicants or the NGOs have past projects, past existence, for example, from 2015 to 2018, 2019. But after that time, due to many reasons, they have withdrawn from this location and moved to Northwest Syria. So in this case, the sub-applicants who have past projects in 2015, 16, 17, will you consider them or not? This is first. Second, regarding the activities, you have said that you will not accept any activities at the individual level. So in this case, will you consider the vocational training, business grants also at the community, at the individual level, so they are not eligible? Thank you so much.
Thanks. Fadi?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Fadi from LDSPS. I actually have kind of a combined question. Has NEBNI coordinated or tried to contact the authorities? I'm talking about the central level, the MOFA and the MOLA, and or the I would say local level governorates that are targeted in the call. And what is your idea about what is expected? Because we're talking about delivering services and rehabilitating infrastructure here. So what is your, I would say, expectation of the level of the coordination of the implementers of the project with the local authorities? Thank you.
Thanks. Let me start with the last question, and then maybe I hand over to Georgia to answer Hannah and Bekir. So Fadi, I assume you joined the first information session. In the introduction, I have mentioned that NEBNI is a regional project or a regional facility, works in different countries, and it is managed in the Middle East by Norwegian Refuge Council. So in terms of our presence and coordination with the local government, with the federal government or with the Syrian government, this is all done through NRC. NRC is the entity who's doing this work. So in short, yes, we have done this. Now, in terms of your question about coordinating with local authorities, as you know, this is at the development of the concept notes. We expect that NGOs, they already have this kind of connection, or like they have this kind of let's say networking to do that. When it comes later to the if you are selected during the evaluation process and then you go to the co-design phase and as well the final implementation, yes, we expect a full coordination with the local authorities, with the government also, in terms of getting the approvals, everything related to all the project activities. Georgia, over to you.
Yes. First question was around sub-applicants within your consortium that have a track record of working on different sectors in the location or in different locations, but on the sectors that you propose. I will basically repeat, I think, what I mentioned earlier. What is crucial overall is that there is within your consortium experience in the location. And actually the type of activity and sectors of focus within that location of your sub-applicants, for example, this is not as relevant. What we are looking for here is the fact that there is a connect, that there is already a presence, and that it is not a completely new location for the consortium to work in. And then, as I mentioned earlier, if there is experience in the proposed sectors but at different locations, you're able to highlight this, and this will, of course, be very useful to your application in your in the sections on your past experience, as well as providing references for past projects. I hope this clears it up. Now, the question around experience that dates back to 2016 and 2017 and years sort of before that. We do understand the challenges here at the time. However, we're really looking for a little bit more closer experience. So we, as I mentioned earlier, in the references that we asked for in the concept note template, we are looking at the past 5 years. I mentioned a slight flexibility depending on the project duration that you are referencing. But if it's only presence or experience from 2016 and 17, this may be a little bit more challenging, unless you can prove somehow that in the consortium there is balance of experience in that particular location that is a bit more recent. In the last question we received here was on activities on the individual level, so asking whether business grants or livelihoods activities are not eligible. This is not the case. So in other words, what we're talking about here is to make sure you have a sort of a community-based approach. And if it is about, if at the end of the day, your proposed project is on livelihoods, the approach is crucial. We also, of course, understand that livelihood activities will be targeting individuals or small groups of individuals, but how you decide on the activities should have a community-based approach. So this is the answer to that, and I'll hand over back to you.
The next round is Bernard, and I hope this time I said your name correct because last info session was not correct. So Bernard Belland and Abdullah.
Don't worry for my name, it's fine. بدي أسألكم no, in English, of course. Sorry. We, Sharia, with Prisons Museum, we work on transitional justice, on documentation and legal aid. But there is a need for victims also to have psychological treatment or at least a referral. Could we include in the proposal lump sums, whatever, money for referrals for people, for victims or families of victims who suffered under the atrocities of the Assad regime? Could this be somehow integrated so it becomes a more, let's say, multidisciplinary approach of the project? Thank you.
Thanks. Belland?
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm Blen from HTC. I have two questions. First is related to main applicant and the other is for sub-applicant. The first is like if the main applicant serving Syrian people in abroad of Syria, like Iraq and Turkey, and have record in those countries. But after the changings in Syria, he come under registration. So the question is, these records abroad of Syria will be taken in account or not? And the second one is for the sub-applicant. If you're working in northeast Syria areas under the AANES authority and is registered there, and it's newly registered in Damascus or in the process of registration in Damascus, and also have record, but these record are not like audited, external audited. So this record will be taken in account or not. So this is the main two questions. Thank you.
Abdullah Al-Hamoud, please go ahead.
Hello everyone, and thank you for your time. I have a question regarding the pathways, exactly about the second pathways. If we will apply for activities including rehabilitation of facilities such as hospitals, schools, or similar facilities, is it acceptable from your side or not? This is the question, and thank you.
Thank you. Before I hand over to Georgia, colleagues, the next round is the last round of direct questions. Please go and add your questions in the chat box if you still have more. And after that, we'll go through the questions in the chat. Georgia, over to you.
All right. So on your first question on referral of victims to psychosocial support and providing these types of activities, first, let me say overall, we're not going to be commenting on specific activities and whether or not these are sort of eligible, because this is somehow otherwise might be a little bit challenging to address all. There is a very large flexibility in the call for concept note that we have put out for Syria. As you will have seen, we have no thematic area of focus. So under any activity that you would like to propose, if you're able to integrate it within a theory of change that adopts a building for peace approach and that looks at the different pathways of the theory of change of Nabni, this will be taken into consideration. So this is the most important part for us, is that you have you basically are able to prove that this is the case and this is aligned with the approach of Nabni. A multidisciplinary approach is exactly what we are looking at. So absolutely encourage you all to consider this and integrate it in your proposed ideas. The question around the main sort of what if the main applicant was working, serving the Syrian population, but from abroad. I'm not sure I understood exactly your question, but if the main applicant was working in Iraq or neighboring countries, this experience is actually not going to be taken into consideration. So if you're talking about working with refugee populations in neighboring countries, this is unfortunately not eligible to serve as your past experience and operational experience. However, if you're talking about the registration modality, this is a question we have answered before. It's also in the Q&A. Yes, you can reference this experience if you have worked within Syria under a registration from a bordering country. This is experience that we will be considering as part of our evaluation. Your question around registration within the Northeast and newly registered organizations in Damascus, we accept registration with the AANS authorities. However, if your records have not, or records of organizations have not been audited, this is unfortunately not eligible. So we do require audits to have been carried out. And the last question was around the pathway 2 on, if I understand correctly here, you were referring to whether activities on rehabilitation of schools and health facilities are eligible. Once again, I would rather not comment on specific activities, but of course, pathway 2 spans a wide array of types of activities, including rehabilitation of infrastructure, service delivery, livelihoods activities. So, I mean, you can consider that and draw your own conclusions. But again, there is wide flexibility on the types of activities that you can propose, as long as they are under the theory of change of Nabni and adopt a building for peace approach. Back over to you, Zaid.
The last round is Sarah, Bizi, and Sami Darwish. And please, for the rest, please go ahead and post your questions in the chat box. Sarah, you may start.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. So we're a Syrian diaspora organization that's based internationally, and we're still working to get our legal registration in Syria. I'm wondering if you would suggest that it's strategic for us to still try to prove that and lead, or if it's better that we instead partner with our local partners that are based in Syria. And the second question is related. Our scope necessarily covers across Syria, so we focus on memory preservation, documentation of human rights violation, and transitional justice. Could we then partner with our local partners within one geographic lot, even if our scope is necessarily wider? Thank you for your time.
Busy? I think, I don't know, you are muted or... Okay,
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. Hi, everyone. My question is related to the pathway 3 about the local governance and the decision-making mechanisms in the community. So, is it purely related to work with the authorities, or can we focus more on the we can make both a mix of both, but I'm not sure if we
sorry,
can make.
Busy,
Sorry.
Can you please repeat your question because there was some interruption?
Yeah, the question is related to pathway 3, and it's about the local governance and the decision-making mechanisms. So, is it purely related to work with the authorities and provide some trainings or whatever interventions with the authorities to empower the local decision making mechanisms, or can we work with the communities as well?
Thanks. Sami?
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Sami Darwish from Tamar Busta. So basically, I have two questions. One related to the applicant and sub-applicants. I mean, the three of the organizations should have like bank accounts or just the lead. Second question is like in the designing phase for the project, if we see it's necessary to have like sub-activities in like, for example, we're focusing on one government, and then we see that sub-activities necessary to be implemented in the neighboring cities or like in other cities. It's possible or not?
Thank you. The first, let me start with Sami and I hand over to Georgia. The first question about the bank accounts, yes, all the three should have bank accounts. The second question, that can be allowed and can be discussed at a later stage if you go through the process and you are selected and then you start working on your co-design phase, and you see there is a need to go a little bit to your neighbor governorate, that can, yes, be allowed and planned in advance. Georgia, over to you.
Thank you. And yes, on this, there's actually also some questions in the Q&A document that you can refer to regarding the neighboring governorates. Sorry, on the first question, on the Syrian diaspora organization, it was a two-part question. I did not understand the first part. Could you kindly repeat? And apologies because I didn't catch the name.
Hi, sorry. Yes. So we're with Syrian Archive, and if we're currently still working to get the legal registration in Syria, my question was, could we still apply as a consortium lead by just proving that we're in the process, or is it more strategic for us to apply under one of our local partners as a consortium lead?
Okay, understood. Thank you. So to answer that, Syrian diaspora organizations are eligible as lead organizations under this call. So if you go through the eligibility criteria, you will see that this is eligible. And we also do require that lead organizations as well as sub applicants, if they're not currently registered, they approve that they are working to get their legal registration in Syria. So in your case, the answer is yes, you can apply with your current registration. And the second part of your question was around the scope of your organization, which is across, so nationwide across Syria. And your question was whether it's okay to partner with an organization that has more of a geographic focus, and the answer here is also yes. So, okay, there was a question on pathway number 3, purely whether this refers to purely work related to working with authorities, or whether you can focus on working more with communities as well. We expect, of course, that overall the project will work serve communities. Pathway 3 is around local governance, systems and mechanisms and accountability. So actually here we do require that there is an effort to design a project idea that actually addresses questions of sort of power dynamics or addressing the vertical relationships that exist with authorities at the local level. So pathway 3 cannot only be focused on communities. And actually, I think that's it. You've answered the other two questions. Over to you.
Thanks. Can we go, Georgia, lean to the chat box and maybe we can go through the questions?
Yes, sure. I have them in front of me, and I think there's more coming. But I think there's a couple I can go through from the beginning, so kind of in chronological order, and I will skip those that have been maybe already answered.
Yeah.
So can a consortium contain more than 3 organizations? No. The answer here is no. There's a maximum of 2 sub-applicants that is allowed. Then there's a question on that I'm going to read. According to the guidelines, each concept note should focus on a maximum of 1 governorate. Does this mean that if the lead and sub in a consortium are applying together, they can only cover 1 governorate and cannot cover 2 different governorates? Yes, that means that only 1 governorate can be covered, even if there are 2 or more organizations within the consortium. And then there was a question in Arabic. Unfortunately, I'm not able to read that. I don't know if you want to take it, or Lean, if you have noticed it.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
I mean, I can paste it back. I'm not sure.
It's
Yeah, maybe
basically
that.
just that question if there will be anything in Arabic for questions and answers. The idea that if you have a question in Arabic, you can raise your hand and ask your question, or you can just write it in Arabic, and I can translate it for Georgia, and we respond.
Is it possible to apply for more than one governorate? The answer here is no. Then define the term international donor or international funding as a requirement of lead applicants. Is the German donor GIZ accepted as such? Yes, German donors and GIZ are accepted as international funding. There's a question around the word limit at the beginning of each section of the call for, of the concept note. So here it says, does the word limit at the beginning of each section refer to the total number of words allowed for all questions in that section, or is it the word limit for each individual question within the section? And the answer is that it refers to the whole section. So as I mentioned before, when I was going through the concept note, each section has different sub questions, but 1 word limit. So this is then going to be up to you as to how long you want your answers to each of the sub questions to be. There's another question in Arabic that just came up after this. So I don't know if you noticed it as well, Lean.
Maybe you can you copy and paste it,
Sure.
Georgia? Thank you. Yeah, so this one is actually like a follow-up from the first Arabic question, which is basically how do we upload the concept note? Where do we upload it after we prepare it?
Do you want to answer this in Arabic or in English?
I could answer it. So بالنسبة للسؤال اللي هو عن وين فيكم تقدموا مذكرة التفاهم. هلا بنفس النظام الإلكتروني اللي عملته منه تحميل لهي لهذا الفورم فيكون يعني المفروض انه تقدروا ترجعوا تحملوه على هذا النظام الالكتروني نفسه، واللي هي التعليمات بيكون فيها يعني تعليمات لكل شيء بيتعلق بهي العملية موجودة بالانجليزي وبالعربي بنفس الدوكيومنت يعني. فأي شيء بيوصل عن طريق الإيميل للأسف ما رح يكون يعني مراجع من قبل الكوميتي أو الهيئة اللي هي رح تختار الشركاء. شكرا.
Okay. I will continue on the list. So can a consortium be a lead applicant and another organization as a sub-applicant, which is a voluntary team? So in other words, not registered and needed to implement some activities and outreach. Unfortunately, we're not able to accept applications that include non-registered organizations at this stage. So the answer here is no. You can still sort of think about how you would like voluntary teams and organizations to be included in your project idea and describe that in the methodology, but they cannot actually apply as a sub-applicant here. Then there was a question addressed directly to you, Zaid, but is also only about directing the document, directing the participants to the document that you were referring to. I believe this was the Q&A document, and I think that there was we sent the link again, but just to let you know, if you go on our NABNI website, call for concept notes, there is a link there that is updated twice per week with the latest questions that have been asked and the answers. Then there was a question around coordination with Syrian central government and local government, but I think this has been answered. Then a question on, do activities under each of the 3 pathways need to be balanced in size and budget, or is it acceptable to focus more on one specific pathway? There is no requirement for the budget to be balanced in size, since we understand and we are aware that activities under pathway 2, most likely, given the nature of it on infrastructure rehabilitation, etc., they might be higher. So there's no need for the budget to be balanced, but we will be looking at how you sort of distribute it and making sure that there's still some resources made available for the different pathways, and there isn't a complete disregard of one or the other. Then there was a sort of a question around requesting to provide the address and procedure for submitting a memorandum of understanding. Maybe you want to rephrase this question, or if there's a question related to it, feel free, but not sure here what to address.
Georgia, sorry, we have only 4 minutes left, so you can answer what you could, and then the rest we can put them in the document Q&A, I mean.
There's a question around what is the difference between the core information and the word form document. Actually, this is an important question, which I want to make sure that is clear. So the Word document that you are submitting is the concept note. So this is where you will be working on your project design and answering the different questions that I showed. The core information is what my colleague Barak showed on the screen. And this is not a narrative document. It is questions that you will answer one by one within the system. These questions are made available to you in the call for concept notes document. So within the call for concept note documents, we have added an annex which you can refer to, and you find the questions that you will be asked in the system so that you can prepare sort of your answers and the information required ahead of doing this directly in the system. So yeah, please refer to that. Maybe I will take one last question only. Oh, Lynn, please.
Maybe I can just use 1 minute from the remaining time, Georgia, to say something on the theory of change and also emphasize that in Arabic. So I think many of the questions are still around some of the pathways, and I know I've already said it a lot, but I really encourage you again to go and watch the video on the theory of change, because it basically gives you the idea of where to start and how the pathways are complementing each other. It also gives examples on what we mean under pathway 3 of local governance, and how that balance between the different pathways in terms of activities could happen. I will just say it in Arabic. بنصح الكل إنه فعلا يروحوا على صفحة اليوتيوب أو الفيسبوك ويحضروا الفيديو عن نظرية التغيير، لأنه هو بيشرح تماما شو نقطة البداية يعني للتفكير بهذا المشروع، واللي هي الباثوي الأول تبع السوشيال كوهيجن. يعني احنا بنشوف انه شو هي المشكلة المجتمعية اللي عم تأثر على المجتمع وعم بتؤدي لنزاعات، وفي حال الحل تبع هاي المشكلة بيتطلب نوع من إعادة الأعمار أو نوع من التدخل بالاقتصادي أو بمساعدة تقديم خدمات أساسية. فبهي الحالة نحن بنحاول نبين كيف هذا الموضوع اللي رح نقدمه بالباثوي الثاني رح يحل المشكلة اللي بالباثوي الأولى، وكيف فينا الباثوي الثالث اللي هو الحوكمة يساهم كمان بأنه ثلاثتهم يكونوا يعني عم بيركزوا على نفس القضية اللي نحن عم نشتغل عليها. وهذا الشيء كمان بيورجي ليش نحن عم نقول لازم متوقعينه يكون بمحافظة واحدة، لأنه المفروض إنه هدول كلياتهم يصيروا بنفس الكتلة يعني. فكمان فيكم ترجعوا تحضروا الفيديو وفيه أمثلة، وإن شاء الله بيساعدكم، وفيكم ترجعوا تكتبوا لنا questions on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. I will stop here actually. And yeah, as we did last time, we will collect the remaining questions and we will publish them on the Q&A document. Maybe Zaid, you can mention when this will happen. But yeah, maybe back over to you. Thank you so much.
Last thing from me, all, we really wish you the very best of luck in developing your concept notes, in submitting them. Again, I need to mention that the last day we receive questions and could answer them is the 4th of August. After that day, if we receive questions, unfortunately, we will not be able to answer them. So please make sure that any question you have, submit before the 4th of August. The deadline, again, to submit your concept note is the 10th of August at 4 p.m. Damascus time. And I highly, highly encourage you to submit enough time before the deadline in case something happens with the system, with your application, you are not sure how to upload the documents and so on. So please make sure that you do your submission before the deadline. Thank you for participating in this information session, the previous information session, and we really hope that it was helpful, and all the very best again with your concept note. Thank you and bye.
Thank you.